Bulavinak, and welcome to this week's segment of Speak Your Mind. And yes, it is another glorious Monday with you. And of course, to those of you joining us on Gold FM, this is live on radio and recorded for television purposes on FBC TV Tuesday nights and also Wednesday mornings. Now, I'm your host, Serafina Wedlock. Now, we've got the 9th of May just around the corner, and this is actually synonymous and also commemorates Europe Day, where it is an annual celebration of peace and also unity in Europe. Now, there's actually who better to talk about this particular day and also the role of the European Union, the European Union's delegation for the Pacific, than the ambassador himself, Mr. Andrew Jacobs. Mr. Jacobs, Ambassador Jacobs, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, or good morning.
Just
afternoon.
Just afternoon, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for
You're most
having me on the
welcome.
show.
Now, Ambassador, first of all, tell us, what is the role of the European Union's delegation for the Pacific?
Well, the delegation here in Suva is responsible for relations with 11 Pacific countries and 4 overseas countries and territories of the European Union.
Right.
So, we work with Samoa, Tonga, and so on, but we're also responsible for relations with New Caledonia, Wallis and Futuna, and French Polynesia, to name just some of the countries that we're working with. And we manage the development cooperation that the European Union makes available to the Pacific. The European Union is the biggest development partner in the world, and we provide considerable funds to the Pacific region. In between 2007 and 2013, we had development cooperation worth around 2 billion Fijian dollars for the Pacific, and that is all managed from the office here in Suva. We're also responsible for trade. As you know, we're negotiating with the Pacific the Economic Partnership Agreement, or the EPA.
That's right.
So we work on that as well with our colleagues in Brussels. And we make sure that the European Union has a voice that's heard in the Pacific. It's a very important area, even if it's thousands and thousands of kilometers away from Europe. It's very important to us. The Pacific countries have a vote in the UN,
Exactly.
And we work very closely on a lot of strategic issues like climate change, global security, and so on.
What is the approach of the European Union been on climate change in the Pacific?
Well, we found that we have some very good strategic alliances with Pacific countries, and it was very good last year at the Pacific Island Forum leaders meeting in Majuro when our commissioner for climate action, who's called Connie Hedegaard,
that's right.
she was there, and she worked very closely with a lot of the countries participating, trying to prepare the ground for 2015 when there's a big climate change conference in Paris. And we very much hope, and it's certainly very important for us, that there are real legally binding commitments on emission targets that are made by the countries around the world in Paris. And that is an ambition that we very much share, the European Union very much shares with the Pacific countries.
That's right.
Some countries in the region, their very existence is, fortunately not Fiji, but some of the neighboring Pacific countries, as you know, Kiribati, Tuvalu particularly, and the Marshall Islands, have a lot of challenges to deal with because of climate change.
Now, what other examples does the Union does around the world in order to defend Europe's interests and also promote its values?
Well, the European Union was founded on the values of human rights, democracy, prosperity. And I just want to go back to 1950, a long time ago now. But that was just 5 years after the end of the Second World War. Europe, the continent, was devastated. It had to pick itself up.
That's right.
And the French foreign minister at the time, who was a guy called Robert Schuman, he put forward an idea for a European coal and steel community.
Okay.
And the idea of that was that all of the countries in Europe would know what each other were doing with coal and steel, so they couldn't make weapons without
each other knowing.
Yeah. Exactly. So the European Coal and Steel Community was set up with 6 members. That was France, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, and Luxembourg.
Right.
And that developed in 1957 into the European Economic Community. Again, as I say, founded really on the principles of democracy, human rights, peace.
Right.
So the intention was that it would be impossible to see a war being waged among the members of the European community, which became the European Union.
Do you think that practice still applies now, though, with the current situation in the European countries?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a very, very serious problem in Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine is not a member of the European Union, but it is a neighboring country.
Right.
And the European Union is playing a leading role. Our High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy, Catherine Ashton, is working very closely with John Kerry, with the Americans, with the other partners, to try to find a solution to the various serious problems that we see in Ukraine at the moment. And I think that is a very, let's say, a very visible form that our ambitions in terms of peace take. So we're working also very much in Syria, where again there are various serious problems. But within the European Union itself, we now have 28 member states.
From 6. That's
From
actually
6.
grown to 28.
Yeah, it's
and
grown.
the name has also changed along the way, hasn't it?
The what, sorry?
The name, it was from coal and steel to
it was coal and
economic
steel community, then it was the European Economic Community, then it was the European Community, and now it is the European Union. And I think as the name has, the changes in the name reflect the European Union's ambitions to become closer together, to really form a very close-knit community. And Croatia was the last country to join in July, the 1st of July last year, and that brought us up to 28.
So 28 members. To date.
Yeah, 28 to date. There are other countries which are knocking on the door, candidate countries we call them, notably Serbia, Montenegro, the former Yugoslav Republic.
So they're all having plans to join up with the European
Union.
Union.
Have to fulfill certain criteria in terms of economic
so there is
development.
a criteria?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this criteria?
Yeah, they need to respect democratic principles, rule by the rule of law. They have to have a certain standard of economic governance. Because the European Union is taking on great obligations when new members come in. We provide a lot of support to particularly the less well-off countries.
Well-off countries, exactly.
And we need to be sure that when they join, they do fulfill a number of basic criteria so that we can work successfully with them.
Well, we'll touch more on the criteria that the ambassador has highlighted for us. But if you have questions for our in-studio guests, you are more than welcome to call us up. 3220-906-0907 is the number to call, or you could even text us on 825. If you just joined us, Bull of Inaka, it's Speak Your Mind on Gold FM. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind. And once again, we're with the European Union delegation for the Pacific, Ambassador Andrew Jacobs. Now, like we mentioned, Europe Day just around the corner. We've got the 9th of May as well as the 5th of May. But we'll touch on why the different dates in particular or in details. But for now, we're talking about the criteria that each country has to fall under to apply for or to make it to the European or to join the European Union. What other criteria is there in place, Ambassador?
Well, the main criteria is that the countries have to be fully functioning democracies, and they have to have economies which are sound, or at least going in the right direction. We need to check that the administration of the candidate countries is solid enough for them to face the challenges of joining the European Union.
Right. What are some of the advantages of being a part of the European Union?
Well, the European Union, I think, is the biggest single market in the world. There are 506 million people, so 506 million consumers.
Right.
And European Union members enjoy free movement, so free travel. You can go and live anywhere you want in the European Union. You can send your money wherever you want. And countries are very attracted to joining the European Union because it gives them huge economic opportunities. It also gives them a much stronger voice on the world stage than they would have singly.
Right.
And certainly the European Union can speak much more loudly with 28 members.
Exactly.
With one sole representative than the individual member states could possibly hope to do on their own. So there are a lot of very clear advantages, and I think the stability that the European Union has had since the European Economic Community started in 1957 goes to show that that there are, I think, very long-term benefits of,
Exactly.
of membership of the of the union. In traveling, you can drive from Brussels to Rome without stopping.
Right.
Maybe you need to stop for various reasons, but you don't need to stop to show your passport.
Yeah.
And that's a very sort of physical manifestation of the unity of the European Union and the way in which the different countries have come together to share, to share, let's say, control of the common space that is the EU.
Does that apply to all European Union countries or just certain number?
Most of them, I can't remember the exact figures, but I think there are 4 or 5 countries which are outside what we call the Schengen region.
Okay.
For example, the United Kingdom and Ireland. There is still free movement. You can still travel freely to the to the UK and to Ireland, but you need to show your passport. For most of the European Union, that is a thing of the past.
You don't need to.
No, it's a few years ago the border posts were taken down. They are no longer there. So
Right.
you can cross a border at 120 kilometers an hour.
Okay.
Without noticing it. And I think that really shows how cohesive, how together the European Union countries are.
That's
The
right.
fact that they share responsibility for border control. It's just an example, but I think a significant one.
Exactly. Now, I know, would you say there are some disadvantages? Would you, would you highlight some of the disadvantages if they are so?
I cannot really think of many disadvantages. I think some countries worry about losing sovereignty, losing an individual presence around the world, but I think they do find that the sharing of sovereignty makes them stronger rather than weaker. And I think member states, as they've joined, have certainly found that the benefits of membership very much outweigh any negative consequences. There are some people who complain that perhaps there are lots of rules and regulations in terms of, let's say, product quality and so on. But these are very necessary in order to make sure that we do have a real single market.
Exactly.
In order to be able to sell, let's say, Portuguese products in Romania without them being tested in Romania, you have to have common standards. You have to have a common agreement on what standards products should come up to.
Right.
So there is a need for legislation, but that's on the European level rather than on the national one.
How does the Pacific Islands fall under the European Union?
Well,
what are the advantages for the Pacific Islands? Apart from the development and projects that they have been experiencing, what other advantages does the Pacific Island nations benefit from in the European Union?
Well, the Pacific Islands, as you say, do benefit from a lot of development cooperation. But one thing that we are very keen on doing now with our Pacific partners is moving away from this, let's say, donor-recipient relationship.
Right.
Because we are convinced that the Pacific countries have something very much to bring to the world stage.
Right.
Issues such as climate change, which we mentioned, global security issues. And these are very important for the Pacific as they are for the European Union. So by working very closely together, I think it's a win-win situation. The European Union can win from forming these strategic alliances, and the Pacific countries can as well. I think we can help to ensure that the Pacific countries have a stronger voice on the world stage.
Exactly.
An example is the Small Island Developing States Conference, which takes place in Samoa first week of September.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about this one.
Well, it's designed to focus on the small island developing countries. The Pacific countries are an important part of the group.
Right.
It's a conference put on by the United Nations, but we're working very closely with Pacific partners to make sure that there is a real focus on some of the issues which really count as far as the Pacific is concerned. So we're looking at climate change, we're looking at renewable energy, we're looking at conservation of fish stocks and so on. And all of these will be themes which will be discussed at the SIDS conference in the first week of September.
Okay.
The president of the European Commission, Mr. Barroso, is planning to attend.
Oh wow.
Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, will be there, and we're very much looking forward.
It's going to be
that.
a big conference.
It's going to be very big. Yeah, I'm in Samoa. I was in Samoa 10 days ago, and the preparations are underway. It's a big,
already.
It's a big challenge, but they're building new places for the meeting to be held. They're converting gyms and so on, and I'm sure that it will be a very successful meeting.
Now, some of the projects that the European Union has been involved with in the country. Now, I believe there are procedures, though, in selecting certain projects that the European Union gets to agree to fund. What is the procedure?
Well, there are two types of projects, really. There are those projects which work on the basis of grants.
Okay.
A grant means that we give money to an organization so that that organization can implement a project that it wants to do.
Okay.
And these organizations are usually NGOs, non-governmental organizations, or civil society organizations. And we publish from time to time calls for proposals. In other words, we put on our website and we advertise in the press as well. Okay, we have, €1 million available for non-governmental organizations who are working in the field, let's say, of women's and children's rights or human rights in general.
Yeah.
And then it's the responsibility of those interested NGOs to send in applications, to send in proposals. And if they're good, if they win, there's a sort of competition depending on how many proposals we get in.
Right. And how do you gauge which one deserves this funding more?
Well, if we issue a call for proposals, the objective of which is to let's say enhance women's rights in the Pacific, we need to be sure that the proposal is really focusing to do that. But we will also gauge whether or not the NGO is up to implementing, what is very often a complex project.
Okay.
But we've had very good results in Fiji.
I'm sure.
There's some very good, very competent NGOs here.
Very much. Hey, if you're interested in more, stay with us. You're on Gold FM. It's Speak Your Mind with Ambassador Andrew Jacobs on Gold FM. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind, and yes, you're on Gold FM. I'm your host, Sarafina Wedlock. Now with us in studio, Ambassador Andrew Jacobs, once again, of the European Union's delegation for the Pacific. Now, Mr. Jacobs, what other Pacific Island countries has the European Union been heavily involved with?
All of them. We work in all of the countries of the Pacific, right down to the smallest, Pitcairn. We work in Pitcairn with its 45 or 50 people.
Right.
I must admit, it's one of the Pacific territories that I haven't yet discovered. I think it can take 3 weeks to get there. There's no air transport. No, we do work with all of the Pacific countries. I mean, both in terms of bilateral cooperation and also in terms of regional cooperation. We work very closely with regional organizations, with the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, with the SPC, with SPREP, the Pacific Environmental Agency, on programs which really bring together the different countries, supporting things like disaster risk reduction, supporting mitigation activities against climate change, and also, very importantly, supporting economic integration. The Pacific Island countries hope to form some type of, let's say, free market where goods can be sold in different countries, and we work very closely, particularly with the Pacific Island Forum and the Melanesian Spearhead Group on implementing that, in helping the Pacific countries to establish rules and regulations to really begin to trade more easily. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the Pacific for trading among the partner countries, among the different Pacific countries, but so far it's at a very low level, so there's a lot of work to be done. And we think as the European Union, with all of our experience of the single European market, we can bring a lot of our expertise to bear on how best to go about this challenge.
What can you tell us about the neighborhood policy?
The neighborhood policy? And the European neighborhood policy supports Europe's neighbors. In other words, those to the south and to the east of the European Union. And in fact, in my last job before I came here, I was responsible for cooperation with the southern neighborhood, we called it.
Oh, wow.
Which was North Africa and the Middle East. I had 10 countries to work with, providing cooperation,
Right.
providing assistance to those countries. It was a very busy time.
I'm
I spent
sure.
4 years on that job, and during that time there was the revolution in Tunisia,
Yeah.
the downfall of Mubarak in Egypt.
Hmm. So it was around that time.
It was around that time, yeah. So a fascinating time. But
I'm sure.
the European neighbourhood policy is designed to try to ensure that there is a stable and prosperous environment around the European Union.
Hmm.
These are our closest neighbours. What happens in Syria,
It
what
affects-
happens in
yeah.
Egypt, what happens in the Ukraine affects the European Union directly. I think it affects the Pacific as well. The world is so joined up now.
Exactly.
But it affects the European Union more than anyone else, I guess, because we are so close. So the neighbourhood policy is designed to encourage, let's say, a stable neighbourhood for the European Union to live in.
Right. For the Europe Day celebration, now I've noticed they've actually two dates that have been chosen, the 5th and the 9th. Could you tell us the reason for this?
Well, no, the 9th is Europe Day.
Right.
The 9th of May is Europe Day. But what we have sought to do this year is to have different activities over the week leading up to the 9th of May.
Okay.
We also have something on the 10th of May. We had so many good ideas, we thought they wouldn't fit all into one day. So we've called it sort of Europe Days this year.
Right.
And I think that does mean that there's a lot of opportunity to join us in on various activities.
That's right.
The first thing we did was on Saturday we led a beach cleaning exercise
Yeah.
down at Maisuva. There was a team of people from the European Union delegation, but we were very happy that there were many people,
Supporters
members
as well.
of the public, who came along as well. And we collected 40 bags of rubbish off the
Wow.
beach.
Right.
It was good. Everyone had a very good time. But,
I'm sure. And this is a build up towards the 9th as well. So there are other
Exactly.
activities that are in place.
Yeah, we're working, for example, today, a colleague of mine is at FNU making a presentation about the European Union there.
Right.
He's talking about the opportunities that we offer for scholarships for graduates.
Yeah.
So we're taking the opportunity really to focus on what opportunities the European Union offers for
Right. And some of these are new opportunities, or have they always existed?
We are making more, for example, talking about student scholarships.
Yeah.
Last year, I think there were 19 students from the Pacific who went to study at a postgraduate level in the European Union,
Okay.
which is something, but it is not enough.
Yeah.
So we're making more funds available for what we call Erasmus Mundus.
Right.
And that's something that we're very keen to promote.
How was the response from the Pacific Islands in regards to the sponsorship of the 19 students?
The response is good. They need to find partners in Europe. We're sort of explaining how the process works.
Okay.
There were a number of people from Fiji, I think from FNU and also from USP, who went to Portugal last year.
Oh, wow.
To Porto. Which
Right.
I think is a very positive experience to carry out their postgraduate studies.
Yeah.
And we're also trying to encourage more European students to come here to spend the time studying at the universities in Fiji and in the rest of the Pacific. It's not easy because of the distance.
Exactly.
And, I think people don't automatically think, I'd like to go and spend a year studying in Fiji. But there are very, very attractive opportunities here. So it's a two-way thing. There are opportunities for Europeans in the Pacific and vice versa.
Nice. And I'm sure with as years go by, hopefully it gets more from 19
Yeah.
probably too.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the projects that the European Union has been involved with in the country, in Fiji.
Well, we're quite proud of what we have done over the last few years. We don't, for the moment, have a full government-to-government development cooperation program with Fiji. We suspended that a few years ago after in around 2007. We're hoping as soon as the elections take place that we'll be able to start this full government-to-government cooperation, and then we will be putting more funds into Fiji in terms of our development support. But we have, over the last few years, nevertheless been doing a lot of work, particularly through NGOs and also through private organizations. We've been working, for example, with the Consumer Council
Of Fiji?
Fiji.
Nice.
We have a very successful project which has been generating awareness among consumers of what their rights are,
Right.
trying to strengthen the legislation, consumer legislation, and so on. We've been working in a number of areas with NGOs. I mentioned before women's rights, children's rights.
Children's
and so
rights,
on.
yeah.
So we have been doing a lot. And one thing that we're particularly pleased with is the support that we've been providing in the sugar belt.
That's true.
There have been a lot of challenges, I think, there, and we've been working with the people who live in that area.
Okay. Well, we'll be talking more about the projects that the European Union has been involved with in the country. And once again, it's Speak Your Mind. Feel free to call us up with your questions on 3220-906 or 907 or text us on 825. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind. And yes, radio program live on radio from 12 to 1. And we've also got this pre-recorded for FBC TV viewers. And that is from for Tuesday nights, 10:30, and Wednesday mornings at 11. Now, with us in studio once again is the Ambassador, European Union Delegation for the Pacific Ambassador, Mr. Andrew Jacobs. Now, Mr. Jacobs, apart from Fiji, we've also got the Cook Islands. I believe you had done some projects for the Cook Islands as well as the other Pacific Island countries. What has been some of the major projects that have actually used up, used a lot of funding? Which one would that be for the Pacific Island?
I think one area that we have focused on in a number of countries has been renewable energy.
Renewable energy.
The Pacific Islands spend huge amounts of money on fossil fuels.
True.
And at the same time, a lot of the outer islands don't have access to reliable sources of energy. So we have put a lot of money into renewable energy, particularly into solar energy.
Yeah.
And we have in some countries, they're thinking about the Marshall Islands, but also the Cooks is a good example. We have helped to install solar panels in islands which had so far not had electricity 24 hours a day, and it's made a big difference.
It would,
both to people's lives, but also to the economy of the countries and of the islands in question, as they no longer have to fork out large sums of money for diesel. And I think solar energy is a way in which the Pacific countries can show their commitment to fighting climate change. Certainly the Pacific Islands were in no way responsible for climate change, but I think by bringing in renewable energy, by showing this commitment to using alternative sources of energy, they can really provide an example to industrialized countries which have an awful lot of work to do in order to bring in also more environmentally friendly ways of working.
And has a lot of funding also been put into recognizing human rights as well as for women's and children's rights? Yeah,
we have. It doesn't need so much money. I think with human rights projects, with NGOs, with relatively small amounts of money, we can achieve a great deal.
Right.
Working, for example, with people like the VCC Sai Health Center, we have a reproductive health program, or working with the Fiji women's rights movement. With relatively small grants, because of the passion and hard work of the people who are working on the project. I think we can really be instrumental in making a big difference. But it doesn't require huge sums of money. Where we spend a lot of money is on sort of infrastructure development, solar panels, and so on. Some of the disaster relief work that we've been doing.
Sure. For transparency purposes, does the EU follow up on some of the projects that it has funded? Do you come up and have a look at the projects itself and see whether the money is being utilized as it's been mentioned in the proposal?
Yeah, it's very, very important for us to make sure that the money that we provide is being used for the purposes that we have made that money available. If it's not, we recover it.
Okay.
So we do carry out regular audits. We carry out evaluations of how projects are going. We are answerable to 28 member states
Exactly.
in Europe. We're also
Yeah.
answerable to the European Parliament.
Right.
And we have the European Court of Auditors, which is breathing down our necks as well. And so we're very careful with our money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also very important for us that the projects that we support are sustainable in the long term.
Okay.
We can't be there forever. We'll support an initiative for 3 years, 4 years, but after that, we're not going to be continuing. So we need to make sure that if we're working with an NGO, that they have the means to carry on doing what we have helped them to do with our money. If we're working with the government, for example, by installing solar panels, we need to be sure that there are local communities who are going to take care of the maintenance, that the whole thing doesn't fall apart when we leave.
So basically, one of the criteria that I'm sure you would probably say is if the project is going to benefit the country in the long term.
Absolutely.
When sending in the proposals.
Yes. I mean, we will never do anything that a country doesn't want. Any development cooperation to be successful has to be driven by a partner government's own strategies.
Right.
It certainly wouldn't be for us to come and impose a project on a partner. We need to make sure that we are targeting the priorities
Exactly.
that governments have of their own. And I think in the Pacific we've been very successful in making sure that's happened.
With the situation in Europe, I mean, I know you said Ukraine is not one of the member countries, but it is a neighboring country, as well as Russia. Do you think this does affect the European Union work in the Pacific? Does it have an effect on the European Union?
Well, I have been asked, do the crises that we may have around Europe or not too far from Europe, does that mean that we will have less money for the Pacific, for instance? That's not the case. Right. We have a very, very clear commitment. I don't think what's going on in the Ukraine affects directly our work here,
right.
But we are very pleased to have support from the different Pacific countries to the different UN resolutions that the European Union and European countries have been putting in front of the UN. It's important that we get the support for the positions that we put up in front of the UN, particularly in relation to the Ukraine recently.
Okay. Now, for Europe Day, as I said, on the 9th, you said there's activities leading up to the 9th. Now, is this day recognized and commemorated in all countries in Europe, or just, all countries in the European Union, despite the, different days and also different time, basically the time difference?
It's not a holiday in the European Union except for European Union officials.
Oh, okay.
But we end up working nevertheless because
right.
we're
we
in
have
charge
activities,
of making sure that people know that it's Europe Day.
Yeah.
That we're responsible for implementing a lot of different activities.
Right.
So yes, it is pretty widely known in Europe and around the world. Our delegations we have 139 offices throughout the world, the European Union, and all of our offices will be celebrating Europe Day in different ways. We're convinced that it's a very, very good opportunity to get the European Union better known.
That's true.
To come out to talk to people, to work together with people on different activities, and we want to fly our flag.
Exactly.
And,
one day of the year set aside for European Union delegates and also for the European Union itself.
Exactly, yes.
Well, we'll be talking more and we'll have more from the ambassador selling the European Union as much as he can on the show. If you just joined us, you're on Speak Your Mind. Feel free to call us up if you have questions for our studio guest. It's 3220-906 or 907. Welcome back to our final segment of Speak Your Mind. And yes, Europe Day come the 9th of May, and a lot of activities have been planned by the European Union as well as the officials for this day, and they're having activities leading up to the actual day. Now, Ms. Ambassador, tell us, what is the European Union stand on Fiji as a lead up to the elections come September?
Well, it's a very big year for Fiji, as everybody knows. I mean, we're very pleased that the progress towards the elections is taking place, is moving forward. the date of the 17th of September. That day is going to be extremely important.
Right.
For Fiji, we look forward very much to working with the elections office on some of the training that's necessary for those working in the different polling stations and so on. We have already provided support to the elections office through the provision of some technical assistance that I think was very valuable.
Yeah.
So we're going to be, let's say, very much looking forward to the elections, to the return to full democracy.
That's right. You mentioned also that the big conference that you have in September is actually a week before the elections. And will that play a huge part as far as elections in the Pacific goes, or in Fiji?
No, I don't think so.
It won't.
No.
Okay.
I mean, that's a conference bringing together all small island developing countries throughout the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for your, in your opinion, as the lead up to elections goes, do you think Fiji is having the elections at the right time, or is it a little late, or is it early?
I think it's great that the elections are taking place. There's a lot of work to do between now and September. The elections office, the electoral commission, certainly have their work cut out. But I know that we and other international partners are very keen to provide the support that we can to make sure the elections are a success, that they're credible, that they're run in the best possible way. It's a challenge,
it will be.
but I know that Fiji is certainly up to it.
All right. Now, for some of the activities that you have planned for Europe Day, and I believe you mentioned that there was a quiz done. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I just came from. There was a meeting of the International Women's Association of Suva. We had a Euro quiz, which was good fun. On Saturday we started off with some beach cleaning. It's on Friday, really, that the main activities are taking place. We have, at the museum, we've organized an exhibition called EU and the Pacific One World Shared Values.
Nice.
So it's an exhibition of what we're doing in the Pacific with some of our partners. The SPC are going to be there. GIZ, the German Development Cooperation Agency, as well, and that's an opportunity for people to get to know a little bit about the work that the European Union is doing. But it's important for us also that there are things for children to do.
Exactly. I believe you have an activity planned at the Suva City Library.
Yeah, Suva City Library. We did this last year as well, and it was very successful. We have activities for children, for the smaller children, face painting, drawings, movies, and so on. That starts at 9 o'clock, goes on till 1 o'clock. All are welcome.
Right. Okay, there's a question I'm going to ask, and I know a lot of probably people joining us from different parts of the country. They'll ask, is it only done in Suva, or are there other activities planned across the country?
I must admit that this year the focus is on Suva.
Okay.
Next year we're going to be more ambitious and try to carry out some activities in Lautoka, in Lambasa, and so on.
Yeah.
I think we recognize that it's important for us that we talk about Europe throughout the country. It's obviously easier for us to do things here because we're based in Suva, but
so we became very Suva-centric at the moment.
But next year we will be doing more, and I promise that we will get out to the other parts of the country.
Is this the first time that the activities are planned for Europe Day?
No, we did activities last year as well. We have had activities in the past, but I think we're doing more this year than we have previously. And I think every year we will try to do more, and we will try to spread out throughout Fiji. There's just one other thing, if you allow me, that I wanted to mention.
You're more than welcome.
Also on Friday, for the older kids, for teenagers, we have something we call the Amazing European Union Race.
Okay, that sounds
exciting. Which is a sort of treasure hunt around Suva. We organised one last year.
So that's what it was. I saw a lot of them in the T-shirts running right across, some in the marketplaces. I was like, what is happening?
That's right, yeah. They go from clue to clue. They get given a clue. Once they solve it, they're led to another clue.
Just like the Amazing Race.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
How do you, I know a lot of youths will be most interested in this. How can they register for these activities?
Well, for that, we're looking for teams of 5 people.
Okay.
Each team should have at least 2 girls.
Right.
We're keen to have both girls and boys involved.
Mm-hmm.
And just have a look on our website, EU Delegation Pacific, and our website will pop up. And it's an application form that you can either email or bring into our office on Victoria Parade.
Okay, that'll be really interesting and exciting as well.
We're looking forward to. I think we've got 7 or 8 teams already registered.
Wow!
We would like more. The more the merrier.
Exactly, and it will be more fun. So I believe this is Friday and Saturday. You're commemorating this day.
On Saturday, the amazing race is on Friday, and we have one last activity if we're still standing on Saturday, which is a run.
Okay,
the
fun run.
A fun run, an EU fun run, 5-kilometer run along the sea wall.
Right.
And again, everyone welcome. That starts at 8 o'clock. We'll try to get running before it gets too hot.
Okay, so are there prizes with all this competition?
There's prizes for the amazing race. There's computers that will go. There's no prizes for the run.
Okay, that's just
other than a glass of water and feeling good about yourself.
Exactly, and keeping fit in the process.
Fit, yeah, exactly.
But the Amazing Race one, there is prizes. So if you want to register, make sure you click onto the website and fill out the application form. Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to highlight about the European Union or even about Europe Day on the 9th of May?
No, I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity.
You're most welcome.
We are proud to be a partner of Fiji. The European Union is proud to be here, to work so closely with Fiji and with the rest of the Pacific. We know that most of Europe is a long way away, although we mustn't forget either that Europe is also in the Pacific. There are 250,000 European Union citizens in New Caledonia, French Polynesia.
That's the closest we'll go to Europe.
Yeah, well, Fiji's nearest neighbor is France.
Okay, there you go.
Fortuna.
Fortuna, true. Well, thank you so much, Ambassador. And once again, happy Europe Day to you for in advance.
Same to you.
And we hope to see you most probably at the Amazing Race, hopefully.
Okay.
But yes, thank you so
very
much
indeed.
Vinaka. Well, that was Speak Your Mind for this week. Until next week, you have a pleasant afternoon and enjoy your week.